Space Invaders was big. And Asahi Magazine would run a story searching for the next big game, soliciting college computer clubs around the nation for new ideas. After visiting 2 in the University of Tokyo, Kawakami of the Theoretical Science Group led an emergency meeting to come up with an idea before the article would be published. He put forth the idea of a game where the player is in their home attempting to trap cockroaches. Another member, Mitsutoshi Tabata, has implied that the idea would have played like a snake type of game, and I've seen decided that you would use glue traps, so perhaps the snake element was the danger of getting stuck by your own traps as you lay more and more down, though they were cautious about giving the player too much freedom of movement in an open space, so the playing field would be reimagined to resemble a Go board, where you place pieces at the intersections of squares, instead of within them, almost as if the lines are the streets and the spaces are buildings in a city grid. This changed their setting from a home interior to a city, and with everyone talking about this new horror movie Alien, they decided that could be the new monster that you trap. In brainstorming a city to take place in, they landed on the nation's former capital, once called Heiankyo, which had an impressively strict grid, making it an easy leap for them to then have you play as law enforcement of the time, attempting to dig pitfall traps for the invading aliens. Asahi would publish the idea, resulting in them being contacted by electronics company Heiankyo, who were interested. The group looked at Tabata to program it, as he owned the legendary Apple II, but one thing he couldn't do was optimize it. Apparently the game took 10 minutes to even boot, so Kawakami stepped up to optimize it, and met Tabata at the train station to take the entire Apple II, which is humorous to imagine them lugging around. He would ultimately decide to switch to the Apple II's low-resolution mode, effectively quartering the resolution, and changing the available approach to visuals, resulting in humans, aliens, and holes being different colored blocks. This build of Heiankyo Alien Pitfall Trap Game was taken to Heiankyo as a sort of proof of concept, and they were set up on the first floor of the Oda District office. Kawakami and Fuichiro Shimada would become the project managers, with the team fleshing out what should and shouldn't be done. They changed the street layout to be less uniform. A timer was added to end the game in the event that the player closed themselves off from danger, and inspired by the idea of using candy to distract the slit-mouthed woman of legend, they wanted to include a hard candy that could be used to temporarily stop all the aliens from moving. But midway through development scrapped the idea as they found it overcomplicated the controls. With a sole keyboard to type out what they wrote and burn it to a ROM every time they wanted to test if what they came up with worked. Multiplayer modes would be added, having you either take turns or co-op with both of you on screen together. One thing Heiankyo really pressed them for was to give the player an animation for when they met their end, resulting in the very last minute addition of an angel sprite to float away. The game would be demoed at the Amusement Machine Show, where it was discovered that adding too many coins would cause the coin counter to spill into VRAM, removing one of the city walls, allowing one of the aliens to wander off, scrambling the game's data. But when all was said, patched, and done, it would hit arcades to great success, being among the highest grossing arcade games in the country. Game Center Arashi was a book series about its protagonist Arashi conquering local arcades, with its story about him attempting to score 10 million points in Heiankyo Alien in 20 minutes, spotlighting not only the game, but its strategies and terminology, making things even more accessible. These were also detailed in Computer Magazine I/O, who would also announce a PC version, visually distinct by its green visuals. There was also a handheld version using condensed repeating stages and simplified visuals to keep the core gameplay intact, while maintaining portability and affordability. It would inspire many future games like its side-view counterpart Space Panic that would find much success itself. But as the 80s rolled around, Heiankyo would not survive, with the rights to Heiankyo Alien going up in the air. Hyperware was able to buy the rights 10 years after the original game's release and get to work on a remake. The 1990 remake of Heiankyo Alien would feature raising and lowering lanterns blocking the roads to keep the environment ever shifting on the player and the monsters. A new boat mechanic allows you to traverse the river faster than taking the streets. Cinematics including an ending were added, and while there would be a classic mode, the remake was rocking a faster pace to keep up with a new breed of aliens sporting more erratic movement. And that's not the only rocking being brought. The remake's multi-matrix sound system. B-side of its soundtrack contains an advertisement for the game promoting that when its multiplayer mode is linked to another Game Boy, the sound design will combine both Game Boy sound systems into one, allowing for audio twice as complex. The co-op of the original would return in classic mode, and the remake mode allows for competitive multiplayer, where you each get your own screen and can affect each other's games, sending aliens you've buried into their games, as if you're on opposite sides of the Earth, And those monsters evolve when they come up on the other side. The rebounded aliens can be taken out for good, and I have to mention the branding overall. This is so good. The clean red while only displaying the outlines of the monsters feels so classy yet harsh and vintage. Unfortunately for all involved, the remake was not well received, seemingly being dismissed as an overpriced repackaging of an antiquated 70s game. Even retrospective reviews years later look back on it negatively. A couple of more years later, a new game for the Super Famicom would attempt to try again, with more screen real estate and sporting modern graphics than the original game's gameplay, with multiple stages of dynamically dropping factors to deal with, from power-ups to get to power-downs to juke. But this game would mostly go not talked about. The original game would be re-released for Windows on its 20th anniversary and be listed as shareware. After a 2001 mobile version, a 2003 game titled Heiankyo DX would have you face 15 stages of alien tapping across night and day with new graphics. Every time a new Heiankyo came out, it would mention how popular the original game was. As much like Space Invaders that inspired it, its original entry was something it never recaptured. But just like Space Invaders, that's not to say that not just the legacy, but the idea of new games was not appreciated by players. 2017 would finally show positive reception to multiple Heiankyo projects. Neo Heiankyo Alien is a Famicom entry taking place in 2990X, where you can trap multiple types of aliens in a vibrant nightscape. Play the original, or just listen to the soundtrack featuring a long list of artists in Heiankyo music mode. Since that 1990 remake, it seemed music became a big part of what the series' identity is, with Heiankyo Alien 3671 going for a very colorful and fast-paced rendition of the original game, with a spotlight on music, and as part of a collaboration with the group, announced an Idol edition. People seem to be mostly positive on Heiankyo nowadays. I imagine this is a result of people approaching its modern games with a lower standard than possibly sitting on the same shelf as Super Mario Land in 1990, and being held to the bar of being its similar price competitor. Sometimes even without sentimentality toward the old, it's just like a fun little game. Abotaro.